Hello everyone, you welcome to my Java course for beginners to experts. In today's video lecture, we are going to learn identifiers in Java. Identifiers in Java. What is identifiers? A name in Java program is called identifiers. It can be a class name, it can be a variable name or method name. Any name in Java is called identifiers. So here is a class in which we define a main method and a variable. So in this class, what is identifier and how many identifier? A class name test is one identifier. Method name main, which is one identifier, and a variable name x. This is an identifier. So any name in a class name, variable name or method name is called the identifiers. Identifier must follow some rules. To write the identifier must follow some rules. Number 1. All identifiers must start with either a letter small a to z or capital A to Z or currency character dollar or an underscore. So to write an identifier, you need to start your identifier with letter A to Z small and capital A to Z or currency character or underscore. After the first character, an identifier can have any combination of characters and digit. This is and A and D and digit A and D and digits. Number 3 is Java keywords cannot be used as an identifier. What is keywords? We learn in upcoming videos, but keywords means reserved word which is provided by Java like if, else, while, do while, for. These all are called the keywords. So that keywords cannot be used as an identifier. Next rule is identifiers in Java are case sensitive. Case sensitive means foo and foo. Both are the different identifiers. Here are some valid identifier examples like employee list 2, employee list 2, employee list 2. This is an identifier start with small e. You can start your identifier name with dollar sign. You can start your identifier with capital letter. This is the okay. Asks, you can start your identifier with underscore and you can start with small letter. But there are some Java invalid identifiers examples. Number 1, my variable. Why this identifier is invalid? Because the space is here. The identifier cannot have a space. Number 2 is 9 pins. This is also an invalid identifier. Why? Because in this case digit identifier name is starting with digit, which is not possible. We cannot start an identifier with digit. After the writing any letter, we can use digit in the middle or in the end, but we cannot start the identifier name with digit. Next one is a plus c. Why this identifier is invalid? The plus sign is not an alphanumeric character. That's why this is also an invalid identifier. Next one is testing 1 hyphen 2 hyphen 3. The hyphen is not an alphanumeric character. That's why it is also a invalid identifier. Next one is my variable apostrophe sign. So apostrophe is not an alphanumeric character. That's why this is also a invalid identifier. Okay, so this is also invalid identifier because m% is not alphanumeric character. So we cannot use m% to defining an identifier. There are some naming convention for identifier. What is the naming convention? Means if you are providing any name to the identifier, you have to follow some rules. Number 1, use camel case for most identifier. Means you have to use a camel case for uh, defining the name of a class, defining a name of class, interface, variable name and method name. If you are defining a class name, interface name, variable name and method name, then you will have to use camel case. How to write a name in camel case we learned in few seconds. Number 2, use initial capital letter for classes and interfaces and lower case letter for variables and method. So what the meaning of this sentence? If you writing a name of a class, then the name of the class should be start with a capital letter. If you start with a small letter, it will not give an error, but it is not a valid industry level coding practice. You will have to follow some guidelines while you are writing the code. So if you are writing a class, you have to start the class name with capital letter. In the same way, to writing the name for interface, you will have to use capital letter, but for the method and variable you use small case. Number 3, for constant, use all capital letters separated by underscore. If you want to define a constant, then constant name should be capital letter. All the letters should be capital. And if the name is two two character or like a two word, if the name of constant is two words, then you can separate by them by using underscore. Number 4 is avoid using dollar characters in identifier. Number 5, camel case for classes and identifier. What is camel case? Camel case means first first letter should be capital. If your class name is two words name like employee class, so employee is a first word, so its name should be start with capital. Then class is a second word, its name should be start with capital. Employee interface, E capital and I capital. Camel case for method and variables, method name should be start with a small name, variable name should be start with small m, but the second word should be start with capital. In the same way, for method name should start with a small letter, but second word of the method should be capital letter. So friends, these all about the identifiers in Java. How to write identifiers, what is the identifiers, what is the rules to writing an identifiers, we have learned in this lecture. The important role of identifier is when you are writing the code at industry level, then you have to follow all the rules, otherwise it is not a good programming practice. So to writing the class name and method name, interface name and variable name, you should always follow the rules of identifiers. So thank you for watching this video lecture and watch my next video lecture for learning new things in Java.